When God is all there is. Okay. There's just a sweetness in the room today. So I just like us to just be present to that and, just look around and send a smile from your heart to those around you that just says, I'm so glad you're here today on this spiritual journey, on this human journey. Thank you for being you and showing up and bringing your light today. And your inner sparkler. So we are in this collective consciousness of celebration as a nation of our many blessings and freedoms we get to enjoy in this country. How many of you have traveled outside of this country? Oh, wow. Most people here. And so coming back, did you have a greater appreciation for our country? I know I did. As an 18-year-old, who thought she knew everything. Coming back going, wow, we have so much here, so much to be grateful for. So we also get to celebrate freedom of worship, freedom of religion, freedom to follow our spiritual path. And the inner freedoms that from Creator God that we were bestowed with when we were born. When we were born with original blessing, whole, divine, loving, free, Christed beings with that spark of divinity, that flame of faith, that flame of spirit that is always lit. And so let's amplify that right now with some affirmations. And I'll say them once through, and then I'll invite you to join me with that. So affirming the truth of being, I am filled to overflowing with the presence of the living God. Within me is the sacred gift of divinity. I live it and give it freely. The dynamic vibration of freedom shatters all limitation in my life. Love, peace, and possibilities break out everywhere I go. The essence of gratitude lifts me up, lights me up, and loves me up. I name it and claim it, and so it is. So let's stand if you choose. You don't have to, but if you want to stand and just breathe with it or move with it, hand motions, that's fine too, as we just activate this even more, the truth of our being. Together, I am filled to overflowing with the presence of the living God. Within me is the sacred gift of divinity. I live it and give it freely. The dynamic vibration of freedom shatters all limitation in my life. Love, peace, and possibilities break out everywhere I go. The essence of gratitude lifts me up, lights me up, and loves me up. I name it and claim it, and so it is. Amen. You may be seated. Oh, let's just breathe that in. Can you feel that aliveness in your body with those? Yeah. That feeling more alive. That is our natural state, to feel vibrant, to feel alive, to feel whole, to feel good. As Neil Donald Walsh said, independence is your soul's natural state. Freedom is another word for God. Right? And did you know that the word freedom in German means peace? And have you noticed that when you're feeling peaceful, that you feel free? And then when you're feeling free, that you feel peaceful. So those two go together. And aren't those qualities of that God presence, feeling peaceful, peace in our mind, freedom in the heart? What more can we ask for? Well, we ask for a lot of things, don't we? But Jesus had the keys that he gave us, and one was, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So isn't that why we're here each week? To free our minds from mental constrictions, to free us from any sense of separation from God, from each other, from our higher selves, to live in that light that we are, that we were born to be. I saw a cartoon of a little boy who was sent to the corner. He's in timeout. And he's turning to his mom and he said, "Grandma said the truth would set me free." We usually think of freedom as something to escape from, right? To get free of something, rather than a creative act. You know, have you ever found yourself saying, "I can't wait until my upstairs neighbor moves," or "this project is finished, those contractors out of my house," or "oh, this relative goes back to their house," or "until I pay off this debt," or "until this thing, whatever it is, fill in the blank, is over." Have you found yourself saying that? Yeah. So it's just a reminder of how often do we put our lives on hold and our happiness on hold until the thing is over. And can we find the freedom within our experience of the thing while we're going through it? Because we have that capacity. So we all want to be free from sickness, from limitation, from loneliness, from debt, from confusion, doubt, lack, any kinds of afflictions. And Emily Cady calls this yearning a God-given desire and a God-given right. So surely we can pray and take guided action to free ourselves from, so we can live unencumbered. And sometimes the desire to focus of getting rid of the thing is so we can do this, so we can have our time freed up to create, or for the relationship, or for whatever our heart's desire is. So while this is true, there's also another aspect of freedom that we're looking at today. And this is the freedom to do or be something. Have you thought of that lately? I want to share a lot from Eric Butterworth today. He's one of my favorite Unity writers, and he had some really good wisdom for us about this topic. He said, the greatest freedom is to grow into the strong person we were created to be, facing up to and coping with those things we otherwise try to escape from. He says, if we try to escape, run away, lean on others, or use chemical means of deadening the pain or softening the blow, we're not achieving freedom. Freedom is not an escape. It is a choice to be strong, to understand, to find a transcendent way. You can see our 12 powers working here with the faith that we can do it, with that wisdom to be guided to the next step, with our imagination to imagine possibilities. Possibilities. Where is that one? Love, peace, and possibilities break out everywhere I go. Try affirming that to yourself when you're standing in line at Smart and Final. So that's powerful, isn't it? The choice to be strong, to understand, to find a transcendent way. So spiritual truth, knowing the truth, makes us free from worry, free from discouragement, free to choose a new level of consciousness with which to meet change and which to meet challenges and life. And greater gratitude, too, for our lives. In the book of Revelation, we read, "Behold, I have placed before you an open door that no man can shut." Seems like people sometimes shut the door, right? When we face a closed door. But there's another way to be free within that. We are always in the flow, but we have to realize it. And that's why it's good to have a prayer partner, to be your partner in believing the times when our faith is running low, to have a prayer partner who's prayed up, who can hold that vision for us, hold that healing vision, that prosperity vision, that employment vision, that relationship harmony vision. This is from Butterworth, too. You may lose your job, but you can never lose your ability to create. Even if you were fired, you can never be fired from the universe. You can never lose your ability to create. Do you believe this? Yeah. Freedom is not isolating yourself from darkness, but summoning the courage to go out in the darkness and put your hand into the hand of God, which will be to you better than light and safer than a known way. That's a lot of trust and faith, right? Putting your hand in the hand of God to be led. Better than the human mind can think, because that mind of God can see around corners. It can see the future, the past. It has multi-directional. So that trust puts us always in that higher way, that illuminated path. I want to share a family story about my brother-in-law who, upon graduating from high school, he joined the Marines at 18. And 2 months later, he and his buddy were on guard in Europe. And his life changed in an instant. His buddy was bored and doing something that every soldier is trained not to do. He was playing with his weapon, which accidentally discharged. And David, at 18 years old, my brother-in-law, became a paraplegic. And the whole family was shocked. And it was difficult with him getting, from Europe, and there was lots going on with that. But he wrote about his experience. He started a blog, and he wrote about his experience, and I was really moved by this. He says that when he was in the ambulance, he died, but he was brought back to life. He was sent back to life. And he said he knew in that in-between time he had met God, and he would be okay, that he would be taken care of. And I remember shortly after it happened, he came to visit my then husband and I, and we lived on the second story, and my husband wanted to carry him up the stairs, and he said, "No, I'm doing it." And he kind of moved himself off his wheelchair and pushed himself up, step by step by step, all the way to the door. So there was something in him, some strength in him, some inner strength in him of, I can do this. And it was a long road for him. There was one point he wasn't sure he wanted to live. He would get his hopes up with surgeries and back and forth. And then he spent some time in the VA hospital in Long Beach. And he wrote about this a lot, that he was feeling quite sorry for himself and down until he met men in there who were, he says, worse off than him. That they were quadriplegic or so scarred emotionally and mentally that they couldn't really interact and enjoy anyone's presence. They would argue all the time. They were just so much in mental pain. So being there, something healed in him. He writes about this, that he began to pursue life. He began to give hope to the other veterans there. He had kind of an off-the-wall sense of humor, and that was still there after all he had been through. He ended up getting married, adopting a daughter. He became a painter, a writer. He learned to fly and bought a plane and would fly places. And when I saw him years later, right before his death, he was probably in his 40s, and I told him, "You are such a hero." And he turned to me and said, "I am not a hero. I am not a hero. You just do the best with what shows up. I know that God is looking out for me. And I've just been focusing on what I can do versus what I can't do." I was so moved by that, Such a good message for us, like focus on what we can do, right? What can we do? What can we do today? One sweet, small step toward our dream, towards something our heart's desires. One thing, what can we do? So knowing that no one can shut the door on the source of your good. No one and no thing can shut the door on your ability to create, to love again, to begin again. In the Bible, you may remember the story of Joseph and his brothers. Do you remember that story? His brothers were so jealous of him. And they sold him into slavery. And then years later, after all this he goes through of being thrown in prison, then coming out, and then helping the Pharaoh with passing out the grain during the famine, he sees his brothers again after 10 years, and he forgives them. And he says something very interesting. He says, "Although you meant it for evil, God meant it for good." Because in hindsight, he could see how that really difficult choice that happened to him, that his brothers initiated, ended up helping the country and then eventually helping his family again. So sometimes we can forgive in hindsight. It's hard to do in the moment, but in hindsight, we can forgive. And one prayer can be, "I forgive in all directions of time." Just letting that go. Past, present, future, letting it go. Freeing yourself. Forgiveness is freeing that mental constriction, right? I love this painting. Jesus knocking at the door. And if you notice, there is no handle on the outside. And I always see this as a symbol of the times that sometimes we shut the door on ourselves. We shut the door on our own light through our grief, or anger, or disappointment. Shut God out. But God is always there. That Christ of us is always there. Tap, tap, tap on the heart. Open the door. I'm here. Open the door. The good news is we can open the door. At any time, we can open the door. If you find yourself struggling with something this week, to go into prayer and just See yourself opening that door of your heart. Something's been on your mind, an unforgiveness, an anger, a worry. Open the door. Let that light in, that Christ light in. From 2 Corinthians. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. So we all desire to be free, to feel our wholeness, to conquer fear and worry, to live as we would like to live, to do what we would want to do. And as New Thought writers remind us, desire, the heart's desire, not the ego's desire, but the heart's desire is built into our very nature. The word desire means of the Father, desire. So those heart's desires that keep knocking at the door of your heart can open the door. So this week, what if, instead of seeking freedom from something, we direct that energy toward something we want to do or be that lights us up? What do you want freedom to do? What state of freedom would you like to feel into? A way to work with this, if you wish, this week is maybe to journal. If it were not for blank, I would blank. And fill in the blanks. If it were not for that thing, I would. And then put your heart's desires there. And picture those doors opening. So this Independence Week, I invite us to reflect on this new insight of freedom, not merely as an attempt to get free from something, but as a freedom to release our spiritual capacities on all cylinders. And so I want to close with a declaration of liberty that may sound familiar. It's been attributed both to Marianne Williamson when she was an author, and maybe she still is an author. And it's also been attributed to Nelson Mandela. So you might want to close your eyes and just let this sink in. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in every one of us. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And so let us go forth this week, knowing that the essence of God lifts me up, lights me up, and loves me up. And join me, and so it is. So it is. Thank you.